So Rafe, approaching the Mares Sale now, just shining the spotlight back on You Got To Me, if we can, a filly who's had the spotlight very much on her all season. Just start by sort of reflecting on her run at Doncaster and what sort of happened there. What was your assessment after the race?
We thought they were going to go hard.
Yeah.
Grosvenor Square, we thought was going to go hard, and the opposite happened. She was too keen really for a mile, and then didn't finish out as a result. And it was felt that, the Ledger is not mile 6, it's a mile 6.5, and it's hard on them. Not every horse can cope with running back, so it was felt that it was a good idea to finish for the year. She'd been on the go since May as well, so it made sense.
That said, it's easy to see why you rolled the dice, because the way she kept finding through the season and improving was remarkable, really.
Yeah, and she kept coming out of her races really well, Gina, as well. She came out of the Yorkshire Oaks better than we expected her to. We only really made the decision late, I suppose, to supplement, but it in the run-up, I felt that she was in really good shape. She's a tough girl.
She is. Her form very much showed that improvement and progression through the season. I mean, did she surprise you with just how much she kept coming forward all year?
She did, because, I suppose, she won the Lingfield Oaks, and she was, she ran away with Hector for most of it. Then, in the Oaks itself, she travelled really well, perhaps didn't quite get home on that ground. I felt afterwards that it was ground more than anything else. It was still a sound run, finished 4th, and then the Ribblesdale, she was very keen, but still ran through the line to finish 4th. And then obviously we put the tongue strap on her in Ireland, and that made her much more tractable for both there and at York in the Yorkshire Oaks. So yeah, it took for a filly to do that. It was 5 starts between May and August. That's pretty good going, isn't it? Really.
It feels like there's been so many big race wins for your operation since then. If we just take you back to the Irish Oaks, what was that day like, and just how impressed were you with that performance? Because it feels like the expectations weren't necessarily there going into the race.
No, it was sort of. It felt like we had to run because of the way the race had fallen out. Who was going to go there and how she was training. And it felt like a really, really good fit. And with her being as hardy as she is, the travelling wasn't going to bother her. And the way she takes her races wasn't going to bother her. So it felt like we had to go, and track was always going to suit. They went a good gallop. That was going to suit her as well. And all those things came together.
We've spoken about her mental toughness. What about her as a physical model? What is she like, and how has she developed through the year?
A big scopy filly at 2, and she sort of filled her frame really throughout the year. There wasn't any point at which I thought this filly's going to go light on us. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, with the size and scope and the way she's made, you would expect her to develop 3 to 4, particularly off the back of a long break, which she'll have had before she goes into the ring. Never mind before she starts next year.
And when you look at what a horse like Blue Stocking has done and how she came on from 3 to 4, to me, just looking at them briefly or on the racecourse or otherwise, they look quite similar, as in they were big frame of horses. Do you see You Got To Me as one that could, take that step up next year in similar fashion?
You would think so. It's very much a pedigree that gets better with age as well, and racing. Dam took a lot of racing before she got to winning a Galtres. I would be surprised if she wasn't a better filly next year.
So it must be bittersweet that she is heading to the sales ring all the same. We'll see what happens there. But if you did have the luxury of having her in training with you next year, what sort of races would you have been looking at? What sort of campaign would you be looking at for a filly like that?
Very similar to Blue Stocking, funny enough. I'd probably drop her back and start her in the Middleton and at York. I'll track, obviously she showed a distinct liking for in the Yorkshire Oaks. And then work it out from there, whether we went back to a mile and a half or stuck to fillies only. But I'd certainly start there. If she missed that, then I think you'd be keen to go to the Coronation Cup. So it would be something along those lines, and then, you know, probably frame the year around the Yorkshire Oaks, work back from that. But you wouldn't be afraid to run in against colts again. You know, I think she's proven that she's at no point is she overawed by any occasion.
Yeah.
So it's all on the table, you know, I would say. You know, I know we wouldn't be afraid to travel her either.
And when you look at like the landscape for next year, obviously Blue Stocking retiring, no horses the likes of Emily Upjohn no longer there. I mean, that division is sort of there on a plate, really.
Absolutely. Obviously, Kalpana showed herself to be a good filly and stays in training. So there's plenty for her, which is great, which would be obviously a big attraction.
If you could sum up kind of what makes her special, what's made her as good as she is, given she's from a pedigree that you know so well as well in her dam brushing, what would you sort of put it down to?
You know, obviously she's got a really good physical constitution, but you know, to go with a very good, you know, hardy attitude. You know, there wasn't any point in the year that when we were concerned that we were, as I said earlier, we weren't ever concerned that we were going at her too hard. You know, she took everything in her stride. Never really had any physical issue throughout her 2-year-old or 3-year-old career. So, you know, she'd be one of those you'd hope that you could keep on rolling all year with if you program her right.
Yeah. And as far as sort of her ideal set of conditions, I guess because she's so tough and she throws herself at every race, sometimes it's quite hard to work that out. But would she have a preference for a certain ground or optimum trip?
Yeah, I mean, I think 1.5 miles is our optimum. But we felt as the year went on that fast ground suited her best.
Yeah.
So that would be those would be the two biggest factors for me.
So depending on who buys her Rafe, will you be straight up to them at the Tattersalls December Mares Sale?
Well, hopefully they'll be coming to me, but it doesn't work like that, does it? You know?
I mean,
but I'd hope that we'd be under consideration at any rate.